Discover the miraculous encounter, Balaam, Balak, and the shocking talking donkey revealed by God. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the Israelites journeyed through the wilderness, their hearts steadfast as they approached the promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, lying just beyond the hills of Moab. As they encamped in the plains of Moab, a shadow loomed over the king of that region, a man named Balak. From atop his fortified citadel, he gazed down at the multitude of the Israelites, their numbers vast like the sands of the shore, and fear gripped his heart. Desperation took root, and he hastened to summon Balaam, a magus renowned for his ability to invoke God's favor through curses. Balak, overwhelmed by the sight before him, sent emissaries laden with silver and gold to entice the seer. "Come, curse this people for me," they urged, driven by Balak's trepidation. Balaam, upon receiving their summons, pondered the matter. Though the allure of wealth beckoned him, a still, small voice within stirred his conscience. He understood well the nature of the God who had blessed the Israelites. Should he dare to speak words that could bring about divine wrath upon them? Thus, Balaam embarked on his journey, riding atop a sturdy donkey, while the weight of his indecision pressed heavily upon him. Little did he know that heaven watched, and God, seeing the path Balaam tread, dispatched a formidable angel to obstruct him. Unseen by Balaam's ambition-fashioned eyes. As they trod along the way, the donkey halted in her tracks, sensing the divine presence before them. Balaam, blinded by frustration and anger, struck her thrice, unaware of the profound mystery guiding their path. In a moment wrought with the miraculous, the Lord opened the donkey's mouth. "What have I done to you that you have beaten me these 3 times?" she demanded, her voice a shock to Balaam's ears. Stunned and bewildered, Balaam engaged in conversation with the animal, still oblivious to the greater reality at play. Then, God opened Balaam's eyes, revealing the angel standing before him, drawn sword glinting in the light, illuminating the road ahead. "Why are you going to curse what I have blessed?" the messenger of God asked, the weight of holy authority encompassing them. Balaam's heart quaked, for in that moment, clarity washed over him, exposing the depths of his greed and ambition. Yet, the angel's directive echoed in his spirit. He could only speak what God placed in his mouth. A reverent silence framed Balaam's journey forward, donning a sense of humility as he pressed onward, transformed by the divine encounter. The horizon offered both dread and anticipation, and as he rode, the sacred trust settled in his heart. What words would he declare to Balak? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Balaam approached the king's palace, he felt the stirring winds of divine purpose, his heart unsettled yet hopeful. What awaited him in the presence of Balak? Would his words bring blessings or curses, fulfilling the angel's command? The air thickened with anticipation, as God's sovereign plan lay just beyond the veil, the full revelation lingering in the balance. As Balaam entered the royal chambers of Balak, the atmosphere was heavy with tension. The king, adorned in royal splendor, awaited with a frown etched upon his brow, a man beleaguered by fear. The flickering torches cast shadows that danced along the stone walls, bearing witness to the moment that would unveil God's will. Balak rose, his voice a tremor of command. "Balaam! Speak swiftly, for I summoned you to cast a curse upon this people that has come out of Egypt. Their numbers are greater than I can bear, and their presence threatens my kingdom." The king's words poured forth like a tempest, filled with dread and determination. Balaam stood still, grappling with the weight of his calling. He thought of the angel's admonition, the responsibility pressing upon him like iron shackles. "Balak, I will only speak what the Lord directs me to speak," he declared, his voice steady but reverent. With a slight nod, Balak motioned for Balaam to ascend to the high place that overlooked Israel's encampment. The two ascended, and as they reached the summit, the vastness of the Israelite camp spread before them like a tapestry woven by divine hands. Balaam paused, taking a deep breath, feeling the pulse of God's presence in the air. "Build for me here 7 altars," Balaam instructed Balak, "and prepare for me 7 bulls and 7 rams." The king complied, his hands trembling as he offered sacrifices upon the altars, seeking divine appeasement through Balaam's mediation. Once the offerings lay upon the altars, Balaam withdrew to seek the word of the Lord. He sought a private audience with the Almighty, and in that sacred moment, God spoke, revealing his heart towards Israel. "You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed," the divine voice proclaimed, reverberating through Balaam's soul. Balaam returned to Balak, whose anticipation morphed into eagerness, yet Balaam's heart was heavy with prophetic truth. "I will declare what the Lord has spoken," he began. As he raised his voice, the words flowed as a river of prophecy. "How shall I curse whom God has not cursed? Or how shall I defy those whom the Lord has not defied? For from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Behold, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations." His declaration echoed across the plain, a proclamation of Israel's favor. Balak's countenance fell as the weight of Balaam's words settled upon him like a shroud. "What have you done?" he exclaimed, fury igniting his words. "I summoned you to curse my enemies, and you have blessed them." Yet Balaam, emboldened by the Spirit of the Lord, stood resolute. "I cannot do anything contrary to the command of the Lord. Shall I not speak what he directs?" Desperation clawed at Balak's heart. "Come with me to another place, from whence you can see only a portion of the people, and mayhap God will chance to let you curse them from there." Thus, Balak led Balaam to another vantage point, his own scheme still clinging to the hope of a curse. As they climbed higher, the tensions between the intention of man and the will of God thickened in the air. Would Balaam speak again? What would be revealed further in this divine encounter? Unbeknownst to both, the stage was set for a revelation that would echo through the ages, impacting nations and fulfilling promises, for in the heart of this unfolding drama lay the greater truth: God's chosen people were under divine protection, and his covenant would not be broken. But what more was the Lord preparing to unveil through Balaam's lips? As Balaam and Balak descended to the next high ground, the air crackled with an unspoken tension. The 2 men stood overlooking the encampment of Israel, an undulating sea of tents swaying gently in the wind under the vast expanse of the heavens. Balaam's heart was drawn to the abundant presence of God among his people, an echo of reverence stirring within him. "Here," Balak urged, pointing towards the expanse, "we shall find a vantage that does not reveal the entirety of their multitude. Perhaps then, the Lord will permit you to curse what you cannot see." His voice trembled with a mixture of hope and anxiety, aware that his throne teetered on the edge of impending disaster. Balaam, constrained by the hand of God, could only nod as they prepared further altars. 7 more constructed, this time upon lower ground, symbols of Balak's desperate desire to thwart the plan of the Almighty. With each offering a bull and a ram laid upon the stone, Balaam sensed the gravity of his role, the intertwining of divine purpose and human ambition. With the sacrifices smoldering, Balaam turned aside once more, seeking the Lord's counsel in solitude. He entered into a state of deep supplication, the weight of his past decisions pressing upon him. The darkness of Balak's intentions loomed around him, a viperous whisper urging him to yield. But in that sacred silence, a voice of thunder began to rise within his spirit: "You shall not curse my people, they have been set apart." As he returned to Balak, the king peered at him with bated breath, eager for a glimmer of hope. "What then will you say? Is there not a way to turn this blessing into a curse?" he implored, desperation etching lines upon his forehead. Balaam raised his hands, the sacred words caught in the ebb and flow of his breath. "Listen, king. For I must speak. Behold the word of the Lord. How shall I curse whom God has not cursed? How shall I defy those whom the Lord has not defied?" His voice rose, imperious in its sanctity. Balak staggered back, reeling again from the cascade of blessings spilling forth. "Behold, I see him, but not now, I behold him, but not near, a star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. The prophecy fell like gentle rain upon Balak, yet it dripped heaviness, an omen of unsettling hope and resistance. Balak's face turned to stone, and in that moment, rage and despair competed for dominion over his heart. "This is not what I summoned you for," he shouted, voice echoing against the indifferent skies. "You are to bring down a curse upon them, not exaltation. You mock me with your blessings. But the truth, dear king, cannot be silenced by the thunder of man," Balaam replied, regaining his composure as he raised his head towards heaven. "The Lord of hosts has spoken, and what can stand against his decree?" Balak, with a fury unbridled, studied Balaam's face. He saw the resolve written in every line, the sacred mantle worn with reverence. In a moment of reflection, he realized that his plans were mere fleeting wisps against the eternal will of the Creator. Yet hope persisted, wrapped tightly in desperation. "Come now, let us find yet another place," Balak insisted, unwilling to abandon his schemes. "One more time, from a distance where you cannot see the totality of their blessing. Perhaps then, the Lord will let you curse them." As they journeyed together once more, the air turned thick with anticipation. They approached a jagged cliff, the ease of the path giving way to uncertainty, as if the mountain itself conspired in divine order against Balak's intentions. Balaam's heart beat in unison with the high stakes of the moment, for he stood on the precipice of not just choices, but of destiny. The fate of nations hung on words yet unspoken. The clouds gathered ominously, and the glimmer of prophecy loomed ahead, promising a revelation that could astonish even the hardened heart, for in this divine drama, an unexpected twist awaited to unfurl. What spoke forth from Balaam's lips in that sacred moment would unveil not just the destiny of Israel, but the intricate tapestry of God's redemptive plan, stretching beyond the horizon of human understanding. God had more to reveal through Balaam's journey, an astonishing truth about the very nature of blessings and curses, and a voice that would rebuke the disdain of men. As Balaam and Balak reached the jagged cliff, a tumult of clouds enveloped the heavens, casting the land into shadow. The two men stood precariously at the edge, the bitter winds of desperation swirling around them as Balak's heart raced with impatience. "What folly is this? You speak of blessings, yet my throne falters beneath the weight of their destiny. I command you, once more seek counsel." Yet Balaam, despite the mounting pressure, felt an unmistakable stirring within his spirit. "I know not what words to utter that would please you, Balak," he replied solemnly. "For the Lord has made clear his decree, and who can alter that which is ordained?" Taking a deep breath, Balaam turned his gaze towards the encampment of Israel, shimmering like a mirage beyond the rugged landscape. He knelt upon the rocky ground, raising his arms to the heavens in supplication. The wind stilled, a divine hush falling upon the place as the air grew heavy with holiness. The Lord, in his sovereign mercy, descended into Balaam's thoughts. "Rise, and speak what I shall give you," the voice resounded in his heart, vibrant and clear. A flicker of light ignited Balaam's soul, entwining him within the very will of God, infusing him with unshakable assurance. Suddenly, as he opened his mouth, words poured forth a prophecy like a river unleashed. "From the peaks of the mountains I behold him, and from the hills I behold his people, behold, a people who dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations." Each syllable echoed with divine authority, saturating the air with a profound truth. Balak, his face twisted in disbelief, shook his head. "Why dost thou praise such a people? A people who live without kings, without strength. You fool! Speak against them." His voice trembled, revealing the deep-seated fear that gripped his heart. In that tumult of anger, Balaam's countenance remained steadfast. "The one whom God has not forsaken shall rise as a lion. He shall consume the adversaries that dare stand in his way. For there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel." His voice swelled with the richness of God's promise, an unswerving declaration that silenced Balak's tumultuous thoughts. Yet it was then, amidst the prophetic fervor, that a voice arose from the depths of an unexpected source, a low, plaintive bray that pierced the air. Both men turned in astonishment as Balaam's donkey, burdened by the weight of Balaam's presence, stood before them with eyes wide and filled with unearthly intelligence. "Why have you struck me these 3 times? The donkey spoke, the words dripping with clarity. Am I not your own beast, upon which you have ridden ever since I was yours? Have I ever treated you this way? Balak and Balaam stumbled back, for this unthinkable vision unfolded before their very eyes. As the shock subsided, Balaam turned in realization, his eyes were open to the sovereign hand of God working miraculously. The Lord had allowed this creature to speak, revealing the folly of resisting divine will. Balaam, humbled, fell to his knees, crying out to the Lord for forgiveness, beseeching understanding. In that moment, God unveiled further layers of his intricate plan, revealing that his purposes would not be thwarted by human ambition or fear. The prophecies began to coalesce, affirming that a greater deliverance awaited, a promise which would echo through the ages. Behold, I shall reveal to you the path ahead, for there is still more to come, the divine voice proclaimed, leaving both Balaam and Balak shaken from the encounter. The essence of God's plan lingered, weaving a sense of urgency through Balaam's heart, for soon, the dawn of unimaginable events would unfold, heralding a voice calling not just to Israel but to the nations, an echo of hope that would resonate long after they had departed. Would they recognize the divine orchestration even as it beckoned? The unfolding journey loomed just beyond sight, beckoning forward into revelation yet to come. And Balaam, rising from the humility of his knees, looked deep into the eyes of the donkey, a creature he had so often taken for granted. In that moment, he understood that God could use the simplest of his creations to reveal profound truths. Truly, I have been blind, Balaam confessed, his voice breaking with emotion. Forgive me, Lord, for my heart was hardened in ambition. Balak, still reeling from the impact of the divine words and the extraordinary miracle he had witnessed, felt a tremor course through him. What sorcery is this, Balaam? He exclaimed, disbelief mingling with fear. What power do you wield? Do you now speak for a God who refuses to submit to my will? Balaam turned towards Balak, weighty seriousness settling upon him. Hear me, Balak. The one who speaks through me is not swayed by kings or kingdoms. He has chosen a people not for their might or majesty, but for his covenant promises. Blessings follow them as morning light chasing away the night. The atmosphere thickened with an ineffable awareness of the divine as Balaam paused, feeling the breath of God fill the silence. He resumed his prophetic utterance, as I look upon them, I see no iniquity in Jacob, no sin in Israel. The Lord their God is with them, and the shout of a king is among them. The words flowed like living water, confirming the Lord's favor and protection over his people, despite the oppression they faced. Balak's brow furrowed with deepening vexation. Then what is to be done? If your God stands against me, how can I prevail? His voice dripped with desperation, eyes darting about as he searched for options, yet found only impending doom. Balaam, now emboldened by the Spirit of God, declared with clarity, your enchantments will be as dust before the wind. Your plans will crumble like a house of cards against divine purpose. But know this, I will not curse what God has blessed. There was a power in his declaration that resonated through the valleys below. As the skies began to clear, rays of sunlight broke through, illuminating the very ground upon which Israel stood encamped. The echoes of praise erupted from their tabernacles, songs of worship rising toward the heavens. Oh, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring glad tidings! Balaam exclaimed as he turned once more to Balak. With indignation, Balak gestured towards the mountains with a wild intensity. Then I shall defy this prophecy, summoning warriors and sorcerers. There must be a way. His heart thudded wildly as he truly believed the fate of his kingdom hinged upon these desperate measures. But Balaam raised a hand, silencing Balak's fervid plans. The Lord of hosts has spoken. Not in man's might shall victory come, but through the one who is called the Star of Jacob. His eyes ignited with divine fervor as he revealed this mystery, for within his spirit lay a deeper understanding of God's unfolding story, a tale of redemption yet unknown to the nations. Indeed, out of Jacob shall come the deliverer, Balaam proclaimed, his voice breaking through the tumult of confusion. A miraculous dawn will rise, destined to crush the head of the serpent. He is the promise waiting for the world. Balak, caught in a clash of fury and fear, understood the gravity of Balaam's words. What began as a quest to summon curses had morphed into a pivotal moment in the narrative of salvation. Yet, the whispers of greed and ambition tickled the corners of his heart, a darkness willing to challenge the heavens. Thus, the conflict deepened as the horizon awaited a confrontation that would reveal the eternal purpose of God. How would the regions respond to this divine prophecy unwrapped? How would Balak wrestle with the impending revelation? The stage was set for a great unveiling, one that would echo through the ages and call forth a confrontation of celestial significance, an encounter with destiny that loomed on the lip of tomorrow. And the Spirit of the Lord stirred within Balaam, pressing upon him to speak forth what must now be revealed. He turned once more to Balak, the gravity of the moment weighing heavily upon his heart. Prepare yourself, O king, for God is not only declaring a blessing upon his people, but unveiling a future that shall stretch beyond your understanding. Balak's face was twisted in turmoil, his eyes darting between the mighty camp of Israel and the flickering shadows of his fear. Speak on, Balaam. What more shall come of this day? Is there no warning for me in your words? Balaam took a deep breath as the weight of prophecy filled his lungs. The Lord has made known his counsel. You would seek to conquer what cannot be conquered. Listen closely. As a lion, he shall rise, as a lioness, he shall lift himself up. This promise stands unbroken. The strength of Israel is not of this earth but of heaven itself. Balak's voice grew more urgent. But what then of my armies? Am I to cower before this fate? I will not perish unchallenged. His fury ignited, and he summoned his pride, clawing for control in this divine confrontation. Balaam lifted his hands, allowing the flicker of the Spirit to illuminate his being. A curse cannot land where grace abounds. Seek not the way of darkness, for the Lord is a light to his people. Would you cast the shadow of your ambition upon his chosen ones? In that instant, an unsettling quiet enveloped them, the wind ceased, and the hills answered with silence. But within Balak's heart, confusion wrestled with despair, and he felt the weight of his rebellion grow heavier. What am I to do then, prophet? Your words strike at my very core, yet my heart is hardened against this truth. Balaam stepped forward, filled with righteous indignation. There shall arise a new king, as a star from Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. Make not the mistake of opposing the will of the Almighty, for in his purpose lies your defeat. He will lose none whom he holds dear. The darkness of rebellion flickered in Balak's eyes, yet a trace of fear began to weave itself through his resolve. Then go forth, prophet, do what you must. However, keep your allegiances in mind. A reward awaits you. Balaam shook his head, his heart rent with the weight of divine foresight. I will not barter with the oppressor, Balak. My call is not to wealth but to truth. My mouth will verily speak only what the Lord has declared. In that moment, an echo of divine authority resounded as Balaam raised his hands towards the heavens. Listen. For the Lord says, I shall lead them to a land flowing with milk and honey. This is their destiny, a promise not just for them, but a light to the nations. Balak trembled, his spirit sought refuge in pride, yet his heart listened intently to the words of fate that claimed sovereignty over mortal kings. Foolishness, he muttered under his breath, but with a flicker of uncertainty showing just beneath. As Balaam prepared to depart, poised to return to his people, he beheld the truth carved in the horizon, a promise of deliverance, not yet fulfilled, but echoing for generations yet to come. The skies above shimmered with the light of potential, and a new life awaited the ones called Israel. Take heed, Balak, Balaam warned as he cast one last glance back at the king. The plans of a man may falter, but the purposes of God will surely stand. The shadows of his hand shall cover his people, and in due time, the earth shall behold his salvation. And as he wandered back, the truth of God's eternal plan resounded in his spirit. Little did they know, he was weaving a narrative that would forever alter the course of humanity, a sacred unveiling that awaited fulfillment, a star rising even in the dark of night, bearing hope into the world yet unseen. As Balaam made his way down the mountain, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the land. His heart was heavy with the weight of the divine words that he had spoken, yet he felt a restless stirring within him, as if the Lord was still whispering secrets meant to be revealed as the moment approached. Yet Balak remained in his tent, consumed by anger and fear. The king paced restlessly, summoning his counselors to ponder the prophetess' words. Is there no hope left for me? Am I to accept such destiny without a fight? His anger simmered, mingling with desperation as he sought counsel from those around him. Meanwhile, Balaam trudged onward, yet his soul wrestled with the reality of his calling. In the stillness of the evening, he felt an urgency to seek God through prayer, for he understood that a prophetess lifestyle must be steeped in divine communion. As he knelt in the dust, he cried out, "O Lord, lead me, show me your will so that I may fulfill my purpose." In his fervent prayer, the Lord spoke with a voice as firm as the stones beneath his feet. "Balaam, you have been called forth to bless my people, not to curse them. Arise early and go with these men, yet speak only what I command." Balaam rose with a new resolve, his path now illuminated by God's direction. But the climb was steep, and the road ahead filled with uncertainties. As he journeyed, he encountered the emissaries from Balak once more, who urged him to accompany them to the king. Reluctantly, Balaam yielded and set off in their company, but as they traveled, a newfound hesitation gripped Balaam's spirit. The Lord knew the heart of Balaam and the temptations that awaited him. In a moment of divine intervention, the Lord sent his angel to stand in the pathway, wielding a sword that gleamed with judgment. It was an encounter that could not be overlooked, yet Balaam's eyes were veiled, and he perceived not the heavenly being before him. His faithful donkey, however, sensed the spiritual danger, and in an act of wisdom, turned aside from the path, moving into a field. Balaam, bewildered and frustrated, struck the donkey with impatience. "Why have you done this?" he shouted, blinded by anger. Yet, the donkey's loyalty ran deeper than human understanding. The creature resisted Balaam's commands once more, pulling against the reins as fear streaked through its being. Then, in a moment divine and bewildering, the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and she spoke, "What have I ever done to you that you should strike me these 3 times?" The words echoed with a profound authority, and Balaam, shocked, could only respond, "Because you have made me look foolish." It was then that the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel there with the drawn sword. "Why have you struck your donkey?" the angel questioned. "I have come to stand in your way because your path is reckless before me." Fear gripped Balaam's soul as he fell prostrate before the angel, understanding the weight of his disobedience and the mercy of God. With trembling, he acknowledged, "I have sinned, for I knew not you stood in my path." The angel spoke again, "Go with the men, but only the words I give you shall you speak." As Balaam rose and continued on the journey, he was changed, his heart now softened and attuned to the will of God. The dawn of understanding began to illuminate his divine calling, stripping away the layers of selfish ambition. The Lord was weaving a tapestry of purpose through Balaam, revealing that even in rebellion there is an invitation to grace. And little did Balaam know, this was but a precursor to the greater story of God, where nations would rise and fall, and the promise of redemption stretched across the ages leading to the coming Messiah, whose reign would shine like the noonday sun amid the darkest nights. As Balaam approached the tent of Balak, the king of Moab, he felt the weight of an unseen burden upon him. The vibrant colors of the evening sky faded, replaced by a deepening sense of expectation. Balak awaited him, his anger and fear coiling like a serpent ready to strike. The ruler stepped forward, his face twisted with desperation, demanding, "What has your God commanded?" Balaam, steadying his voice, replied, "I must speak what the Lord has put in my heart." Balak's eyes narrowed, hungry for any glimmer of hope. "Come, let us prepare a sacrifice, and perhaps the Lord will show favor upon us," he insisted. Together, they ascended to the heights of Bamathbal, a place where one could gaze upon the encampments of Israel as they stretched like a vast tapestry in the valley below. The sounds of sacrifice filled the air, and Balaam offered his 7 altars, spilling the blood of rams upon the stone. As the fragrant smoke rose, he sought the counsel of the Almighty. The Lord met Balaam in that sacred space, speaking to him, "Return to Balak and speak what I command." Filled with both dread and awe, Balaam returned to the king, who awaited him with impatient anticipation. "Speak," Balak urged, his heart pounding. Balaam took a deep breath, his spirit trembling before the king's demanding gaze. "Balak," he began, "the people of Israel are a people blessed. I cannot curse whom God has not cursed, nor denounce what God has not denounced." He prophesied, "From the mountain they rise up, and like a lion they lie down, they shall not be reckoned among the nations." Balak's rage erupted like a volcanic fire. "How can you speak blessing over them? I summoned you to curse them. I will pay you handsomely." Yet, Balaam's spirit was resolute, anchored firmly in faith. "I cannot do anything but what the Lord commands. Shall I not heed the voice of my God?" And he regarded the landscape beyond, the tents of Israel gleaming in the twilight. "There is no magic against Israel, nor divination, their God is with them." Deeply offended, Balak led Balaam to another vantage point, demanding further words of condemnation. 3 times they sought to lay a snare for God's people, and 3 times Balaam could only pronounce blessings. "The Lord their God is with them, they have their king in their midst." As Balaam spoke, not only did the words honor Israel, but they unraveled God's sovereign plan that extended beyond mere prophecy. Within those divine utterances lay the truth of the coming Messiah, foreshadowed in their very existence as a nation chosen by God. Balak, seething with disbelief, grasped at anger like a drowning man clutching water. "I summoned you to curse, yet you bless abundantly. What have I done to provoke your God?" Yet Balaam replied soberly, "The gift of prophecy is not for the profit of men but for the glory of God. Even now the Spirit of the Lord has poured forth truth, a star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel." With that, a silence fell, thick with unspoken realization. Balaam, sensing the turning tides of destiny, understood that some threads of redemption were intricately woven into the promises of God's people, and so it was, as bitterness brewed in Balak's heart, God's plans were unfolding. In the background of human strife, the grand narrative of salvation loomed larger than the fears of a king. Yet still, the full revelation lingered just out of reach, as if dangling before Balaam's eyes in a haze of prophetic wonder. What lay ahead for Israel, and how would their fate intertwine with the unfolding of God's promises? This path through blessing and curses was only the beginning of a far greater story, a divine orchestration pointing to the light that would shine into the darkest places. Then Balak, filled with a wrath that simmered beneath the surface, turned to Balaam with bitter resolve. "You cannot remain in such folly. Come, let us go to another place, where you may see only a portion of the people. Perhaps the Lord will be pleased to let you curse them for me from there." His fury drove him forward, urging Balaam to follow. They made their way to the summit of Peor, from which the distant camp of Israel lay spread across the parched land like a target for a hunter's arrow. The sight only heightened Balak's frustration, but Balaam stood firm, wrestling with the fire igniting within him. "Prepare for another sacrifice," Balak commanded, his voice taut with anticipation. The preparations were made anew, and once more, 7 altars were erected, each embellished with the finest rams, their lifeblood spilled on the sacred stones. As the smoke rose to the heavens, Balaam, in his heart, felt the Spirit of the Lord grapple with him. He could see the shimmering figures of the tribes below, arrayed according to the families of Israel, each banner a testimony to their identity. The Lord spoke again, capturing Balaam's soul within the gravity of divine truth. "Return to Balak and speak my words." Thus, with a heart both heavy and buoyant, Balaam descended from the heights, trembling under the weight of the moment. "Balak," he began, "God is not a man that he should lie, nor the Son of Man that he should change his mind. Has he said, and will he not do it? Look. I have received a command to bless, he has blessed, and I cannot reverse it." The intensity of Balaam's prophetic utterance resonated in the air around them. Balak's expression shifted from disbelief to a mask of bitter defeat. "Refrain from speaking such treachery. You are to curse, not to bless." His voice raised in anguish, longing for the words that would extinguish Israel's glory, but Balaam stood between heaven and earth, grasped by the truth of prophecy. "Behold, I see him, but not now, I behold him, but not near. A star shall rise out of Jacob, and a scepter shall emerge from Israel. It shall crush the foreheads of Moab and break down all the sons of Sheth. In that moment, Balaam glimpsed a revelation so profound that the earthly realm paled in comparison. As Balak gasped, filled with fear and dread, the people of Israel gathered below, unaware of the spiritual battle taking place on the mountain peaks. Their faith held, unshaken, as they devoted themselves to the one who had called them out of Egypt. The winds carried Balaam's words to them, and a stillness encompassed the camp as they listened for the voice of their God. Yet, suddenly, in the midst of this divine encounter, Balaam's eyes were drawn to the path before him. There, in the shadow of the rocks, he beheld a donkey. This donkey, seemingly ordinary, was tied and trembling, as if sensing the ethereal warfare around it. In that moment, the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam and filled him with a sense of urgency. What shall this creature perceive? He pondered and approached the beast that held a crucial role in the unfolding narrative yet to be revealed. Is it not the path I commanded? Balaam murmured, the tension thickening as the air crackled with the presence of God. Unbeknownst to him, a greater mystery awaited on the road ahead, one that would shake all of heaven and earth and unveil the divine interplay between man and beast. For within that humble creature's eyes lay the sign of God's sovereign purpose, a purpose that would soon echo through time and generations, leaving humankind astonished. And as the threads of destiny intertwined, the greater story of God's unyielding love and plan for redemption loomed just beyond the horizon, as the clouds of prophecy gathered to reveal a divine truth, that even creation itself would speak forth the glory of the Almighty. And so it came to pass in the days of Balaam and Balak, divine purpose unfolded like a scroll before the eyes of men, leading them unavoidably toward destiny. The tension of spiritual conflict hung heavily in the atmosphere, as Balaam stood at the precipice of declaring his words, caught between the earthly might of Balak and the celestial authority of God. As they sought again to fracture the blessings placed upon Israel, Balak, ever relentless, urged upon Balaam the necessity of a cursed desperation cloaked in regal arrogance, hoping against hope to sway the hand of providence. Yet Balaam, renewed in spirit and steadfast in obedience, found stillness in the juxtaposition of man's ambition and God's ordained will. Listen, Balak, Balaam spoke with gravity, the Lord has not beheld iniquity in Israel, nor seen trouble in Jacob. They stand spotless, and because of this, I will not curse them. The words fell from his lips like fresh rain, cascading upon the dry ground. In that moment, heaven leaned closer, and the promises made to Israel glimmered with divine assurance. Balak, frustration melding with disbelief, replied, Then what shall I do? For I summoned you here to summon forth curses, and all you do is bless. Gather your heart before the Almighty, Balaam countered with a gentle defiance, for it is not in your power nor your grasp to sway the designs of heaven. A blessing, once spoken, cannot be taken back, it is anchored in truth. As he paused, the weight of divine revelation pressed upon him, and he proclaimed with newfound vigor, Through the blessings I have spoken shall come a deliverer, a star that rises from Jacob, a scepter from Israel. At this utterance, the fabric of existence seemed to tremble, reverberating with the plans of the Creator. In that moment, Balak's countenance darkened. He felt the shattering beneath his schemes, as the truth of Balaam's words pierced him deeply. What folly is this? He muttered, fervor bubbling into fury. I will not remain idle while you exalt them. Yet Balaam, much like a vessel made pure, stood resolute, filled with the Spirit of the Lord, unable to waver. The grace of God cannot be thwarted by human designs, nor can the pillars of his promise be diminished by the anger of a king. For every intention for evil shall serve the summer winds of his glory and grace, bringing forth his righteous plan. And the heavens quieted for a moment, as though all creation awaited the conclusion of the unfolding mystery. With every fierce proclamation of blessing, Balaam felt the threads of the divine weave tighter, connecting him to the greater narrative, the coming of one who would not only redeem Israel but usher forth salvation to all nations. Then Balak, realizing the futility of his endeavors, gathered his robes about him and scornfully addressed his dwindling strength. I have lost control over my fate, he lamented, the vulnerability of a king stripped bare. What may yet be done? Do not betroth your soul to despair, Balaam implored earnestly, for God's plans for his people bear hope not just for today, but for the ages to come. They are destined for a land beyond your reach, where your power will shatter into nothingness before his will. And as Balak listened, the ferocity in his heart ebbed slowly into resignation, the tug of ambition now tugging only a faint thread. He saw before him, through Balaam's eyes, the irrefutable shine of divine promise that sparkled in the hearts of Israel. The vision of their abundant future stood stark against his own impotence, causing a fear to settle deep within him, not merely of the people he wished to curse, but of the Lord who had fashioned them as a people of favor. Silence enveloped them, a sacred pause from heaven, where the weight of Balaam's words resonated with powerful truth, transforming the unyielding hate of a king into an ember of reflection. And from the distance, the camp of Israel basked in the light of God's presence, unfazed, anchored by the promise that loomed eternal. As their eyes locked, it became evident that the prophecy Balaam relayed would not merely echo in the annals of his own time, but would ripple through all creation, a promise of hope wrapped in divine love. Now, behold, Balaam said, conviction coursing through him, as I declare unto you the eternal promise, that God has chosen his people, and they shall be sustained. No sorcery, no enchantment, shall bring them to ruin. With that, the dawn began to break, illuminating the paths of operation set forth by God's own hands, and as the sun arose, Balak felt the last remnants of his fury fade into realization. The time of reckoning was at hand. He stood there, a king humbled by the truth, realizing in a moment that his fate lay not in his power, but directly stamped by the imprint of God's mighty declaration. With that, Balaam returned to his people, embodying the living testament that all who trusted in God's eternal promises would find themselves encompassed by his faithfulness. The skies shimmered, and as he departed, he uttered one final declaration: surely, the Lord is with them. His steps were lightened, as resurrecting hope filled the air around him. In the echo of Balaam's journey and the profound prophecy, the foundation of a forthcoming Messiah crystallized upon the horizon. By the Almighty's grace, redemption had captured humanity's story, a tapestry of salvation stretching toward eternity. Now, as you have witnessed this sacred narrative of Balaam and the blessings of Israel, let not the truth fall upon stony hearts. We invite you to heed the urgency stoked within, for God's word now courses through you. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's word and witness countless mighty stories that transform lives. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth and the vibrant narrative of faith. Leave a like now to echo this divine message through the algorithm, ensuring more souls find the truth of God's promises. Comment your reflections on how this story impacted your heart. What did you see forged in your faith today? And share instantly this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's unyielding truth. Don't wait even one more second. Join this movement to reveal the glory of God to the world.